the evolution of the Freddy Krueger movie. Freddy Krueger is one of the most iconic villains in movie history. He's my personal favourite, and he's the one everyone thinks of when we think of 80s horror. His transformation from the sinister to the slapstick is something to be acknowledged, and this video is going to go through his personal evolution in the franchise. Believe it or not, the very first time Freddy appeared on screen, he was not played by Robert Englund. The film marked Charles Belandinelli's first taste into the world of special effects, and it was he who provided the hands for Freddy. His first appearance on screen was in 1984, A Nightmare on Elm Street, a film that changed the entire horror platform. First thing we can mention is casting Robert Englund as the notorious Freddy. Robert Englund is Freddy Krueger, nobody else. Yeah, we're talking to you, 2010 remake. He is the best and most recognisable horror villain in cinema history. The glove, the striped jumper, the burnt face, the hat, his laugh, his one-liners. Are simply perfect. He was a child killer before the townsfolk locked him away and burnt him alive. Robert Englund has a story of when he was on set. Bear in mind it would take 3 hours to put his makeup on each day. Usually he couldn't take it off, so he'd go to his trailer after some filming. This one time he fell asleep, woke up and forgot he had the makeup still on. He looked in the mirror and scared himself half to death, not realising what happened or who he was. The Nightmare on Elm Street plot is so intriguing as well. A villain who stalks your nightmares. The idea came from Wes Craven.
Inspired by, I think, 3 articles in the LA Times over a period of about a year and a half. The first one was kind of sketchy, and it was the story of a young man dying after having a severe nightmare, and they couldn't figure out how it happened medically. And then there was a second story about 9 months later, and the newspaper didn't seem to correlate it. They didn't seem to remember the other story. And then the third story, and the one that really made me feel that I have to write a script about this, was this kid. All these kids were Asian, all were Southeast Asia, all had come out of kind of war zones from Vietnam and Pol Pot, the killing fields. And their families had gone through location camps, and then it ended up in the United States. This kid was having nightmares, and he said, somebody's after me in my nightmare, and if I sleep, I know I'm going to die. And his father was a physician, and he said, I'll give you sleeping pills, you'll be all right. We've come through a horrible time, now we're in America, you're safe. The father started giving the kid sleeping pills, and the kid supposedly was taking them, but he stayed up, and he stayed up for something like 5 days. It was like an amazing, just, keeping himself awake almost by putting matchsticks in his eyes. And then finally he fell asleep while the family was watching television, and they took him upstairs and put him in bed, and the parents later said that, we were all convinced that the crisis was over. And in the middle of the night they heard screaming and thrashing, and ran into his room, and he was like kicking and screaming, and they got to him, and he just fell dead, and he was dead. And there were 3 things that really just made me think this is a movie. One was they did an autopsy on him, and nothing was wrong. There was no physical reason for it. And the second was that the family said they found all the sleeping pills that supposedly he had taken hidden. So he had obviously put them in his mouth, and when Dad wasn't looking, it was right back out because he didn't want to sleep. And the third thing was this incredible thing. This kid had run an extension cord behind his bedroom curtains and into the closet, and he had a Mr. Coffee in there with black coffee. So he had a source of keeping awake even when he was in his room supposedly sleeping. It was just it was heartrending, because this kid, he was right, He died as soon as he fell asleep.
Craven once said, horror films don't create fear, they release it.
A group of teenagers are terrorised by Freddy Krueger, an evil being from another world who gets his victims by entering their dreams and killing them with gloves that have knife blades attached to each finger. There were many sequels which Craven wasn't a part of. He was more involved with New Nightmare, which we will talk about later on. Freddy Krueger has under 7 minutes of screen time, and what minutes they are when you add them up. But 7 minutes is crazy. You wouldn't think that, would you? Robert Englund cut himself the first time he tried on the infamous Freddy glove, and over 500 gallons of fake blood were used during the making of the film. The words Elm Street are not spoken at all during the whole movie. We have the truly unforgettable scenes from the bathtub in this film. Tina's dream. I'll always remember Tina's dream. And the death scenes. There are many death scenes. Let's just talk for a second of the horror of his character. Almost like a cult following, a part of people's childhood fears. Definitely mine and my brother's. My brothers and his friends used to talk about him as if he was real, and we did believe him. We did believe he would stalk your nightmares when we were young. We honestly believed it. It was one of the first horror movies I watched when I was too young to be watching horror films. When I shouldn't have really. I think it was about 9 or 10. Let's not forget about the catchy 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. I love Freddy coming through the wall scene as well in the bedroom. So I love that scene. I'll always remember it. And that ambiguous ending, which made you think if Freddy Krueger was still out there, he didn't actually die in the first film. A Nightmare on Elm Street 2, Freddy's Revenge, 1985. The second one came along. A teenage boy is haunted in his dreams by Freddy Krueger, who was out to possess him in order to continue his murder spree in the real world. It was strange seeing Freddy not kill Jesse anyway, but use him to his gain. Wes Craven was not behind this, but Wishmaster 2 and Alone in the Dark director Jack Shoulder was behind A Nightmare on Elm Street 2. Let's make it clear, in the second one, Freddy still brought the fear. He wasn't soft yet. We had the brain scene, the transformation scene, Jesse into Freddy. The transformation scene is almost like a send-up to American Werewolf in London. Genuinely scary scenes, honestly, really, really scary. The pool party scene is another one people remember. And I must admit to you, I had a massive crush on the love interest, Lisa, when watching this when I was a teenager. Yeah, you know how you are. My other one was, I had a crush on the girl from Teen Wolf. Yeah, the brunette in Teen Wolf. I had a bit of a crush on her as well. In the opening sequence, the bus driver is Robert Englund without the heavy Freddy Krueger makeup and his signature clothing. New Line originally refused to give Robert Englund a pay rise, and an extra was cast as Freddy at the start of production. After 2 weeks of filming, Robert Shea realised that this was a terrible lapse in judgment and met Englund's demands, and we're glad they did meet his demands. The only Nightmare film in which the lead character is male. All the other ones that we're going to talk about, and the ones we've just mentioned, the protagonist's always been female. The ending of the second movie, Freddy is set alight and essentially melts. Until the very end, where he pops out of one of Jesse's friend's stomachs. I'm going to say that again. Until the very end, where he pops out of one of Jesse's friend's stomachs. Yep. A Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors, 1987 was next. A lot of people, including me, put this one up there as one of the best. Survivors of the undead serial killer, Freddy Krueger, who stalks his victims in their dreams, learn to take control of their own dreams in order to fight back. Oh, I want to watch, just by reading that, I want to watch it again. Chuck Russell took the reins for this one. He was behind Eraser, starring Arnold Schwarzenegger, The Scorpion King, and The Mask, starring the legend Jim Carrey. The cast with Robert Englund, Heather Langenkamp makes a return with John Saxon, who plays Pops, Patricia Arquette, and the young Lawrence Fishburne are in it as well in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. I'll always remember this one continuing the catchphrases and the one-liners.
This is it, Jennifer. Your big breaking TV. Welcome to prime time, bitch.
Here's more stuff I loved. I love the concept of it actually being their dream, so they can take control. It's a personal dream, and they can do whatever they want in the dream. They can have magic powers and just be an all-round badass. Another thing I loved is the soundtrack. Oh yes, Dokken's Dream Warrior. I actually preferred their other track in this film, Into the Fire. I much prefer Into the Fire to Dream Warriors. You gotta love Into the Fire.
Into the fire! Into the fire! Into the fire! I'm falling!
I'm not gonna lie, actually, the first time I heard Into the Fire, I was mildly addicted to it. I just kept listening to it every single day. This was years ago now, but I still love it. It still gives me goosebumps, and I still love listening to the song. The Freddy glove that was stolen from set of this film was found in another movie. It was hanging on the wall of the work shed in Evil Dead 2. Ooh. Released the same year as the film. It was a part of a continued banter between directors Wes Craven and Sam Raimi. Like we mentioned, after a tiring day on set, Robert Englund fell asleep in his dressing room, still in full Freddy makeup. He woke to see himself in the mirror, scaring the heck out of himself. So the story comes from the third instalment of the franchise. For 1 week during filming, Robert Englund was working 24 hours every day. By day, he was wrapping up filming on his TV series Downtown. Then he would report to the Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warrior set and do nights. What a man. What a man. 24-hour day shifts, Robert Englund. Love the man. Love the man. Nancy tries to save the day at the end. Eventually, he disappears because of holy water.
Dust to dust.
At this point, I want to urge you to check out a video of mine. You might like it because you've watched this video. It's called Evolution of the Slasher Genre. We look through all the slasher movies from the very beginning to the most recent one just gone. You might like my Evolution of the Wes Craven movie as well. If you're a big fan of Freddy Krueger, you might like Wes Craven as well. There's a playlist which you can access it. The link's below. Or you can hit me a message on Facebook at facebook.com/Richard Al's Radio Show. I'll happily send you the links to those videos, Evolution of the Slasher Genre or Evolution of the Wes Craven movie. A Nightmare on Elm Street 4, The Dream Master, 1988. 1988. Freddy Krueger returns once again to terrorise the dreams of the remaining Dream Warriors, as well as those of a young woman who may know the way to defeat him for good. First things first, let's talk about Freddy Krueger featuring in his own music video. Are You Ready for Freddy? By the Fat Boys. I really don't know how I feel about this. I really don't know. Is this what killed Freddy, really? Is this what killed Freddy? Some may know of the Will Smith song, Fresh Prince and Jazzy Jeff did a song about Freddy Krueger. A lot of people talk about the soundtrack of the fourth film, from Billy Idol to Blondie, Sinead O'Connor, Go West. So Rennie Harlin directed. He directed the fourth Nightmare on Elm Street. He also did Die Hard 2, Die Harder, and Deep Blue Sea. Every time I think of Deep Blue Sea, I have to think of this clip.
We're gonna seal off this.
Everyone remembers the beach scene from this one. Freddy wearing those shades. It's ultimately Alice versus Freddy until the end, where Freddy sees himself and slowly dies. After the souls of the kids he's killed kill him. Quite confusing, but that was the end of that one. Robert Englund's favourite part in the film was the time loop, because it seemed like a visual of a dream that keeps repeating itself. The first film in the series where Robert Englund receives top billing in the opening credits. About time too. Freddy's Nightmares was next, big TV series from 1988 to 1990.
No, don't be afraid. This time, it isn't one of your nightmares. This one was mine.
Freddy the Dream Serial Killer hosts this anthology of stories set in Springwood. A Nightmare on Elm Street 5, The Dream Child, 1989, the pregnant Alice finds Freddy Krueger striking through the sleeping mind of her unborn child, hoping to be reborn into the real world. We get a backstory with Freddy Krueger with this one. His mother, Amanda Krueger, was a God-fearing woman. We get to see his birth, find out Freddy wants to be a father. Lots of stuff going on in this one. We actually see Robert Englund without the Freddy makeup, just wandering around. And I did love the church scene as well. And the church scene always reminds me of an old YouTube channel I had where I focused on horror films, and I think that a Freddy Krueger tribute, and I used a few clips from this scene. So, at around 1 hour and 20 minutes, "School's out, Krueger" was a replacement line when the actor, who was a minor at the time, wasn't permitted to say, "Fuck you, Krueger." Continuing this thread about the end, with the final battle, Freddy comes out of Alice, and the child Jacob kills Freddy. Freddy's Dead, A Final Nightmare, 1991, sixth, a Nightmare on Elm Street film on the list. I remember being really intrigued by this one. Honestly thinking this would be the final movie, so it kind of give you the incentive to watch it. And how wrong was I? I was very, very wrong. Lady director Rachel Talalay was behind this film. Freddy Krueger returns once again to haunt both the dreams of Springwood's last surviving teenager and a woman with a deep connection to him. The film gave more backstory about Freddy's abusive upbringing, him going insane with his child, and I'll always remember the driving scenes.
Screaming while the bus is in motion!
And ouch! I always remember the ear scene. The ear scene. That ear scene is going to be with me till the day I die, I tell you. I'll never ever forget the ear scene. More catchy one-liners.
Now be a good little doggy.
On September the 12th, 1991, a day before the US release of the movie, LA declared it Freddy Krueger Day. So Freddy Krueger Day is September the 12th. The video game system that Freddy Krueger plays is similar to the NES, which featured a Nightmare on Elm Street video game. I missed it. I missed the NES. This is quite interesting. Peter Jackson's original screenplay for Freddy's Dead saw Freddy aging and growing weak within the dream world. The teens of Springwood would have drug-fueled slumber parties for kicks and enter the dream world to beat him up. Now, the start of that sounds interesting. I would watch that, but the end kind of ruined it for me. I like the idea of Freddy aging and growing weak. I think there's something really interesting in that. Almost like a Batman character aging and growing weak. The ending with this installment has Freddy exploding. Yep. That's all we'll say about that one. Now, 2 years later, the fanboy inside me went crazy for Jason Goes to Hell, 1993. We all know Jason Voorhees, Camp Crystal Lake Killer. Jason Goes to Hell was the 9th in the Friday the 13th franchise. The ending is very, very important because it has Freddy's glove taking away Jason's mask in the sand. And we can hear Freddy laughing as well. Like I said, the fanboy in me went nuts for this. He was back. Freddy was back in New Nightmare, 1994. Wes Craven was back to directing. Yes!
Frightened by what Wes may have
Shirt's
happened.
turned off?
It's off.
Funny, it's warm. Just like a real hand.
With Heather, John Saxon again, Robert England actually playing himself, which is a weird one. Heather having to play Nancy one last time to defeat the demon that has possessed Freddy. My favourite scenes are the chat show part. It's just fantastic, great stuff. I love when he comes on stage and it's impeccable. The nanny being murdered is always good.
Hey Dylan, ever played Skin the Cat?
I always remember the earthquake part, the cameos and Freddy's robotic glove killing people. The ending brings Freddy right back to where he started, being put in an oven while being burned alive. So in this film, Freddy is depicted much closer to what Wes Craven had originally intended for the character. Much more menacing, much less comical, with an updated attire and appearance. I prefer this type of Freddy, I really do. But let me know in the comments below if you prefer serious or comic Freddy, because there's a big debate between the two. I'd love to know what you think of Freddy Krueger and what your personal favourite is. Serious Freddy or the comic Freddy. Now, a little nice one here for you. Little comic relief. Scream, 1996. Freddy Krueger the janitor. Wes Craven puts on the sweater, the dirty sweater, in a truly remarkable film. And look, there's Henry Winkler too. Gotta love Henry Winkler. So 10 years since Freddy's brief cameo in the ending of Friday the 13th, Freddy vs. Jason finally happened in 2003. Strangely enough, I always remember how good the soundtrack was. It had Machine Head, Spine Shank, Beginning of the End, which I still listen today. Typo Negative, Il Nino, and Killswitch Engage on it. I enjoyed the plot. Freddy Krueger and Jason Voorhees return to terrorise the teenage population, except this time they're out to get each other. Bride of Chucky director Ronnie Yu, and can we just admire the fighting scene in this one and the first time they meet each other, which is just amazing. It was like, it sounds silly to say, but it was like, at the start it was a Nightmare on Elm Street, and then we got a little bit of Friday the 13th, then it mashed up to everyone's delight towards the end. Well, the ending got a lot of people talking actually, because Jason comes out of the water holding Freddy's decapitated head, and Freddy winks at the audience, which is open to suggestion about whether there's going to be a Freddy vs. Jason 2, but I think we need to have Michael Myers versus Jason versus Freddy. Then I can die a happy man. I can just be happy, yeah. That needs to be a thing. Michael Myers versus Jason versus Freddy. I hope you agree. According to Robert England, his Freddy makeup was so thick that he didn't really know how hot it was from the fires during the filming. When he got in to have his makeup removed, It had literally bonded itself to the side of his face. Now this is quite sad, really. The final film in which Robert Englund plays the role of Freddy Krueger. Freddy vs Ghostbusters, 2004. Now, before we got the remake, Never Sleep Again, The Elm Street Legacy, 2010, was a documentary that helped us through the hardship of having to face the remake. Now, a director of Green Day music videos and Metallica's music videos directed the remake in 2010. It brought the darkness back. It added elements of Freddy's past, Jackie Earle Haley as Freddy Krueger, and it did get a lot of attention, but it ultimately failed. Now, on that bombshell, there's something quite nice about the film, the fact that Freddy's sweater was knitted by Judy Graham, the same woman who knitted Freddy's sweater in the original and Nightmare on Elm Street, 1984. I like that, that's kind of sweet. That's kind of sweet. Now something to get us smiling again. Ready Player One, 2018. Freddy Krueger's reprisal as one of the avatars had a lot of people anticipating this film. Lots of 80s nostalgia. When the creator of a virtual reality world called The Oasis dies, he releases a video in which he challenges all Oasis users to find his Easter eggs, which will give the finder his fortune. Wade Watts finds the first clue and starts a race for the egg. Director Steven Spielberg, so you know it's in good hands. In the trailer, Freddy has a little brief spot in it. We're hoping to see more. Freddy Krueger has almost got like a resurgence now, featuring in Rick and Morty, great television series that I love dearly, in an episode called Scary Terry. And it's a little bit of a play on Freddy Krueger, Scary Terry. It's almost like an Inception episode, dream within a dream within a dream, where Freddy Krueger turns up, so he's still current. He's still current now. Now, if you are a fan of movies and you like the video, then you can check out my Facebook page at facebook.com/Richard Al's Radio Show. I do movie specials every week, and it'll keep you up to date with my videos, my new videos for YouTube, and my radio shows every single week, because they're coming thick and fast, I tell you. Also, the link down there, if you've missed any of my radio shows and want to listen to what I sound like when I'm doing the radio, then there's a Mixcloud account underneath in the description. You can click that link and you can catch up on some of my movie specials that you might like. The links are all below. So thank you so much for watching, and I hope you can join me again soon.